Hey everyone, Doug here. Before we dive in, I wanted to tell you a little bit about Flower Power Cooking Studios here in Pittsburgh. If you're looking for a summer that your kids will actually remember, Flower Power is serving up some of the most delicious fun in town, with summer camps that mix learning with laughter and loads of hands-on cooking. Each week brings a brand new theme from international flavors to sweet treats and savory eats. Your little chef will chop, mix, stir, and smile their way through a full-day experience in a safe, fun, and screen-free kitchen classroom. But Flower Power isn't just for summer. They offer birthday parties, weekly classes, and parents' night out events, and even field trips, all designed to build confidence and creativity through cooking. So whether you're planning summer break or just your next family fun day, that's easy. Flower Power Cooking Studios, Pittsburgh, where everyone can cook up something special. Check out their website at flowerpowerstudios.com, location Pittsburgh, to learn more. And remember, flower is spelled F-L-O-U-R. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Dish. I'm your host, Doug Heilman. How do you create a menu that blends Korean heritage and authentic life experience? Simon Chough of Soju tells us how. Heading out for some pork barbecue in these warmer months? We ask Catherine Montest what bottle of wine she would grab to go along. And what foodstuff might a dedicated bread baker be making at home? Chloe Newman shares her perfect grilled cheese. All that ahead. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for coming over and for being on the show. Would you introduce yourself to our listeners and what you have going on right now in the world of food?
Sure. My name is Simon Chough. I am the chef and owner of Soju restaurant in Garfield. Aside from the day-to-day at the restaurant, I try to get involved in interfacing with the community a good bit. So I do, events. I just did one with Bad Sauna. That's right down the street from us.
Yeah.
And I have another coming up with this Au Noir Foundation, where they pair us with a designer of clothing, and we make a dish based upon that clothing. So that should be fun.
Yeah, I think Au Noir, they've done a couple big things over the years, and isn't it like dark food and stuff too, right?
Yes, it's like a black theme.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. I've never done anything like it. So, it'll be interesting.
So you mentioned you're in the Garfield neighborhood. There's so much going on over there, and you own that building that Soju is in, right?
Yes, we are very fortunate to have bought that building way back in what it was like 2008, I believe.
Oh, really?
We bought the building. Yeah, it took us a very long time to open.
And so when did Soju, the restaurant, open?
It opened in 2018.
Oh, wow.
About 7 years ago. We just celebrated our 7th anniversary on April 1st.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
For someone that hasn't visited your restaurant, let's just quickly define the cuisine and what they're going to find when they visit Soju.
Well, I always like to tell people that Soju is a direct reflection of myself and my experiences rather than I bill it as a Korean American restaurant.
Okay.
I try to refrain from, traditional Korean, like advertising myself as a traditional Korean restaurant because we are not that.
You have nachos and French fries on the menu.
So, it is really just a casual Korean American eatery based on my experiences.
Yes.
My dad was born in Seoul. And my mother was born in, Eastern Pennsylvania in Wilkes-Barre.
Okay.
So, and then I've been, there's little Hawaiian influences there because I spent about 5 years out there.
Yes.
And, it's just kind of a culmination. It's an embodiment of myself, really.
I love that. I love that you're bringing something so unique. I mean, some of the things that I really like, and we'll have to get into the food, but the kimchi nachos, which you make, it's not with nachos, right? It's with the wontons.
Chips. Yep.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And what else is on the menu that's sort of... something you think is sort of unique to your experience?
Yeah, definitely the kimchi nachos. The killer tofu is just something that is like, I've always enjoyed eating tofu that way. That's something I've been doing for, forever now. Mm-hmm. So that kind of is a similar thing. Nori French fries too.
That's right.
To sprinkle that furikake on French fries is a thing that I've been doing since I was a kid.
I actually love that combination. That sort of salty brininess still makes total sense.
Yeah.
But who would think of that, right?
Yep.
And then let's just go through the menu a little bit more. There's a couple of rolls. I'm probably not going to say this right. Kimbap?
Gimbap. So what you'll find too is with Korean food, the pronunciation and phonetic spelling is often different.
Yes.
So in Korean, it's just characters, it's another language. So in another alphabet, excuse me. So you'll notice gimbap spelled with a K, with kimbap, or you'll notice it with a G, gimbap. Those are basically a Korean-Japanese fusion,
right?
Because Korea was occupied by Japan for many years, and they brought, the nori wrapper and just the tradition of rolling things. But like I like to say that Korean food is Japanese food's like more like casual cousin.
Okay.
Like Japanese food is like very refined and like the Japanese would never think to put all of that food inside of a roll like that. And Koreans like aren't afraid to just like make things like universally delicious and very conventional and, just kind of break tradition there.
I have to say though, I'll interject here. I think Korean food to me is a little more zesty too. I mean,
it is.
We're throwing kimchi in there and sure, you might have a little wasabi on the side for some Japanese dish, but not the way I feel like you're bringing flavors or even that cuisine brings flavors.
Yeah. Korean food is all very big. When I introduce new staff to it, new staff that comes into my kitchen, I always use the 3 S's. All of Korean food is a little bit sweet, a little bit salty, and a little bit spicy.
So good.
Yeah.
I love all the jangs too. I don't know how much that filters in. I mean, we buy
absolutely
gochujang here for at home. I do a lot of stuff with that, but I know there's even others and beyond me, right?
They are all basically, so jangs are kind of also, come from like a Japanese tradition of miso. And then Koreans, just like Koreans do, they make it bolder and, more flavorful, and just like a deeper, kind of more funky fermentation. The jangs aren't subtle at all like their cousin, the misos.
That's right. And I'll just describe for any listeners that are like, what are we talking about right now? So, miso paste is like a fermented, and congee, it's a fermented soybean.
Yes.
So you go into like, say, a gochujang and it's part of that, but then it's all these chilies and salty and a little hot, but not crazy and sweet. So good. So good. I'm probably not done talking about the food yet, but I did want to shift around and talk about the name Soju. And since we're doing some comparisons to Japanese cuisine, folks may have heard of sake, which I understand is more of like a brewed, almost like wine or beer. But Soju is a liquor that's, again, from rice, but not brewed,
distilled,
right?
not brewed. Yes, distilled, very similar to vodka.
Okay, yeah. And you have, I think, I was looking at the menu online. There's all these different flavors you guys do. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. The flavoring of sojus just also speaks to that same thing that, when introduced to a product like that, like a rice liquor, Koreans are not afraid to introduce, bolder flavors and kind of be like a little bit unsophisticated about it.
I love it.
They just get all these wild flavors.
Fun.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And the flavors are wonderful, like compared to like your average like fruit, artificial fruit flavored beverages.
Yes.
The soju companies really hit the nail on the head with a lot of them. And, the like the green grape, I mean, it tastes like Concord grapes.
Oh my gosh.
It's fantastic.
Is there one that's like a ginger-based one too? Right?
There's a ginger-based one. And we also do a bunch of house infusions that are unique to soju as well. We do an espresso infusion and, we'll make like espresso martinis and stuff.
That's so hot right now with some folks. Yeah. Wow.
And so that one's really great. We also do an in-house lavender one. And we also do an in-house honey infusion.
All of these sound really good for like the springtime now. We're coming into warmer months. Let's have lavender soju, I guess.
Yeah. And that one goes in the purple rain. And when you hit, so it's lavender and pea flower infused soju, excuse me.
Beautiful,
right?
About
the pea flower. Yes. And it gives it that like purplish pink color. And then when you add the citrus in the cocktail, it kind of changes the color. And it's like, it's a really cool thing.
Oh my goodness. So we talked about the restaurant. It's been open for just over 7 years. How did you come to say that's going to be the name?
Yeah, I at the inception when we first bought the building, I intended on maybe calling it Simon. It's Saimin. It's the state dish of Hawaii, and it's also my name.
Yes.
So, like, I remember when I moved there, people would be like, "Oh, Simon, like Simon," and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, Simon, like Simon." And here I find out that it's this their version of like ramen noodles, basically. I mean, they'll even have it at McDonald's. You know, it's like an option at McDonald's. It's so widespread and just like very common people food. The story of Simon is that all the sugar cane and when they would work in the plantations of Hawaii, the pineapple and sugarcane plantations, the workers would all come together at the end of a long shift. And the Koreans would have a little extra cabbage. The Japanese would have a little extra fish. And, you know, like, it was kind of a melting pot meal. And that really defined my cooking style, like, it, you know, the way that dish was derived, you know. And I was like, oh, this is great. You know, I could call it. But then when I was showing that to a lot of people, the phonetics of Saimin, they're like semen or, you know. So like the people, like they weren't familiar with the word and the way it was spelled. So like people were getting the pronunciation wrong and people aren't really familiar with that dish. So it was just something that like meant nothing. And it was hard for them to relate it back to my name. So I really thought about it and I was like, you know what, maybe we won't call the restaurant that. And I was thinking of, you know, I wanted something that kind of rolls off the tongue. And even if you don't know what it is, that at least like it's easily pronounced.
Yes.
And then maybe you learn about it from there.
Exactly.
You know?
My experience with soju, I was like, is that just a name? And then I, you know, visited and dug in. I'm like, oh, this is a drink. Oh, it's like sake, but not like sake, you know, all of the things. So yeah, it got me even more intrigued with your place.
Around the time of that name change, I had took a trip to LA and I hung out at these fantastic soju bars. There's one in particular that's called Dwit Gol Mak. And in English that translates to like alley bar. And it's these like famous little alley bars that they have in Korea, these like little spots where they'll have like delicious food, but it's kind of like our dive, you know, or like gastropub in England.
Perfect. Yeah. Amazing. So that's where
I mean, my wife and I were drinking soju and we were just like, you know what, soju is what we got to do. Yeah.
Sometimes that second pivot is the perfect pivot. Right?
Yes, it really was. I
name.
can't imagine any other name at this point.
I want to go back and just ask a couple more questions about food. You do have some more traditional dishes. You have I got to say it right, bibimbap.
Yes, bibimbap.
Okay. And that's typically shareable. Folks are getting it to share.
Yeah, I really enjoy when folks get it to share. I serve it just like my grandmother did. Instead of, usually you'll see it in a stone bowl.
Yes.
My grandmother never served it in a stone bowl. You know, when I was young, you know, that it would have just been too much, I guess, to get a bunch of stone bowls and heat them all up. So I was never used to having it in a stone bowl. So I just omitted that. That was, you know, my experience. And the bibimbap we have is also very particular to my grandmother. You know, I've never seen another bibimbap set like ours. You know, the addition of the cucumbers, the pickled cucumbers, is something that my grandmother would always do that I don't see a lot of other restaurants or other, you know, bibimbaps hosting that that ingredient. And that has like a really nice rice vinegar element to it. So it really contrasts nicely with the beef.
I was thinking a couple of things as you were talking about that. It hits a yinzer pickle thing that we need.
Yes, yes.
Since we couldn't say the first name, you know, and went to soju. You're catering to our yinzer palate and sort of the readiness to adopt, I think.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I would have to imagine that's what my grandmother was after in its inception, you know, when she started cooking that way. Because, of course, all of my grandmother's recipes are altered from, for one, availability of ingredient. You know, of course, like here, you're not going to have a lot of those vegetables that are, you know, readily available in Korea. So, you know, it's a little bit more Americanized vegetable set. You know, if you have it at a traditional Korean restaurant, you'll notice like some burdock and all these like to an average American unidentifiable vegetables, you know. So my grandmother, I'm sure, altered her recipes for what was available at Giant Eagle.
Right.
And also for my grandfather's, you know, who she was feeding, was my grandfather's colleagues and her kids who were becoming increasingly yinzers.
Yes, Americanized, all of it. Yeah.
And so, I think she really, because her recipes and, what I see as what like traditional Korean food, to me, were already Americanized and were already altered. So by the time I started, eating this food and getting these recipes, it had already been Americanized.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the experience we hear so much with folks that come to this country. They can't find the things they're used to, and they just figure it out. They know how to adapt.
Yep.
And you've kept that adoption the whole way through in the menu. And I think that's what makes Soju so special. I do want to just touch on a couple more things. The bulgogi is so good. The short ribs are so good. And then folks may not know this. Am I saying right? Banchan? The little,
banchan, yes.
Yeah, okay. When we went to Busan a couple of years ago, I think they brought us like 9 or 10 little dishes.
Yes.
And can we just describe to listeners, if they haven't visited and they don't know what we're talking about, like what is the banchan?
Banchan would, I'm trying to think of like an English word that kind of condiments. Yes, but then it's also like pickles and sides, you know. So condiment, we tend to see condiments as mostly like sauces, liquids. But, within that condiment, if you're going to consider pickles, condiments, relish. Right. So it's that type of thing, things to accent your food. Right. And often, in Korea, like banchan is the meal.
It could be. For what I've experienced. Yeah.
When we traveled to Korea, the only time I've ever been to Korea, it was after the summer of my senior year of high school in 2005. And my grandparents organized this big trip, the whole extended family, and we all toured through the entire country. We were there for almost a month.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. So we were on a budget. There was all these people. I think my grandfather offered to foot a lot of the bill. So there wasn't a lot of budget for eating. Oh. And this meal that we would have day after day was this banchan. There would just be a bowl of rice in front of everybody, and then a ton of different, banchan side
little things
dishes
to add on.
Yes, things to add on. I would have to imagine in their inception, they were just based on stretching out your rice. They're all very salty. They're all sometimes a little bit sweet, and they're all very strong. Yes. A lot of fermented things. Yes. So they're things designed specifically to eat with a bunch of rice. Eat a small amount of banchan with a big old bite of rice.
It just kicks up the flavor.
Yes.
If someone visits Soju, what are some of the items they'll experience commonly?
So our banchan set comes with a Korean barbecue, and it is radish kimchi, which we make in house, and also Napa cabbage kimchi, and a pickled cucumber. And those are like our core banchan because that's what I grew up with. People are a little thrown back. A lot of people expect like this. And I'm thinking about, trying to incorporate, I was trying to gauge people's interest on the internet with these strange banchans, the anchovy
you just
one.
Put that. I saw the anchovy one in the last couple of days or something. Yeah.
I think, I might try to introduce some of that in some more extensive banchan sets. To be honest, I don't know how ready the Pittsburgh dining scene is for like extensive banchan like that. It is very acquired.
It's an acquired taste.
Yeah. It's not something when presented to like a meat and potatoes Pittsburgh person. Yeah. It's gonna be strange.
I think the bigger trend, millennials and younger are a little bit more adventurous.
Yes, they are.
If I brought my parents to your shop.
Yeah. Absolutely they are. Yeah. But what I find too about Korean food in general and the strength of the flavors and stuff and just the traditional Korean dishes is that people that live in Pittsburgh want these kind of things in theory, but they often do not in practice. Right. When not they come into the restaurant, I've people like tell us sundubu is this silken tofu stew. It's in a very acquired texture, less than flavor. It's in kind of a kimchi-esque broth or gochujang broth, but it's not as challenging in flavor as much as it is texture. And I'll put that on the menu every now and again, and nobody does it. Silken tofu stew. People are like, I'll take Korean
pass.
barbecue.
Right. Give me a short rib first.
Yep, exactly. So, while it would really satisfy me to explore some of those like more traditional and funky things, unfortunately, they just don't sell next to bibimbap and bulgogi.
Yeah. Oh.
This is Simon Chough of Soju Restaurant in Garfield, and you are listening to the Pittsburgh Dish.
Beyond your doors, Garfield itself is just hopping, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of synergy. There's some art nights, there's some things
First
like that.
Fridays.
Yeah, that's right. Very supportive community. So can we talk about what happened at the restaurant this past January?
Yeah.
And where we are now?
Oh my. So we do not have tenants upstairs because I don't want to be a landlord.
Okay.
And the furnace broke upstairs. I didn't know. And then it got really cold and the pipes burst. And then, of course, it had to get a little warmer on the day we were off. So we're closed on Mondays.
Yes.
And on Monday, I got a little bit warmer. And then the pipe, the ice unfroze off the pipe and it looked like Jumanji in the dining room. It was crazy.
I saw a post on Instagram. My heart sunk for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
There were maybe some bad words said,
yeah.
and it looked like it was raining
Right.
inside. Oh my
It
gosh.
was horrifying.
I know even in that same week when you're saying it, I remember Lola's down in Lawrenceville.
Yes.
And our friend's Third Space Bakery, which is also along Penn Avenue in Garfield, had frozen pipes, but nobody had something quite like
I know. If it would have just happened on a day that we were working, it would have been fine. It would have been like, oh, there's a leak. Let's go figure it out. And we'd have turned off the water and everything would have been fine.
Yeah.
But of course, that had to happen on a day when nobody was there.
Gosh. So you close for 2 months for these
We
renovations.
closed for 2 months for some renovations. Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about what you did to get through that, especially with your staff and how the community has supported you throughout?
So my biggest fear, I mean, the building, of course, I was horrified. We own the building. It was like scary for that. But I knew in the long run, all of that was going to be okay. I'm like, we have insurance, we have, but my immediate fear was for my staff.
Yes.
Being able, we have had the same staff at Soju, a lot of it since, we opened, my,
all those 7 years.
Yeah. My core staff, especially in the front of the house, has been with me since I opened, and a lot of others, have been with me for quite some time. And I really feared that I would lose some of these people. They're all very talented, and I really value them. So it was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And I, thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I'll ask the community to donate to a GoFundMe, and of course, they were able to collect unemployment, but also to supplement that, because unemployment isn't, especially at any, in a restaurant wages, tips, it's not the same. It's not what they're going to take home at the end of the day. So I was trying to figure out a way to supplement that, and the community really stepped up and supported. We raised $13,000. So my staff basically had full pay over that 2 months. So and they all stayed, and it really just renewed everybody's interest in it. Of course, restaurant work is burnout stuff. And they're in the same restaurant for 7 years. So 2 months off and at full pay was just like one of those things that we really needed.
Yeah.
Everybody came back, they were happy to work, and there wasn't like this, and they were just like grateful for the place again. And, it really renewed everybody's interest in it, I think.
So this is quite a traumatic experience for a small business to have to shutter. It sounds like in some ways there's this bright spot because some of the staff had off and they were all able to come back. But if you were talking to other small business owners that saw this situation, what would you share that was a lesson or advice through any adversity like this?
Yeah, it's the same thing that I would really share about the restaurant business as a whole. It's just like, hang in there.
Yeah.
When things look bad and catastrophic and, you're not making the money you should, or you're not, things aren't happening, that you're not picking up like you thought you would, just hang in there. Even in terms of just like how Soju developed. We're packed now, but when we first started, nobody knew what we were doing, and people, and there was a good year there that we didn't hardly do very much business at all, but like you hang in there and you be persistent and stick it out, and often you'll be rewarded.
Yeah.
And I think also a lesson was like, never underestimate the community around you and the amount of support you were able to receive from them.
Yeah. You really have built a community, just the way you've built this business. You have recurring patrons and neighbors and people that want to see you succeed. I think that's the general vibe I always get and hear from other folks on this show. Everybody's in it for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm not just in it for myself to win.
right?
Yeah.
That is one of the most beautiful things about Pittsburgh's culinary scene. You know, it's a very tight-knit group, very, I like to say incestuous. You know? I mean,
Everyone's worked for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, there's this like, you know, they talk about like the 7 degrees of separation. In the Pittsburgh culinary scene, there's like 3.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
you could draw a line to any person from, 2 or 3 people. I really appreciate how the Pittsburgh culinary scene is very cohesive and everybody supporting one another and, really looking out for one another. Like, it's something that I do with my social media and stuff that I don't see a lot of other restaurants doing, is that I promote other restaurants on my social media, like they're my own, because I go there and I eat there and I want them to succeed. And I know that my patrons appreciate businesses like mine. So when I see some small restaurateur out there that's just starting out, I like want to go visit their shop and like shout them out and make sure that my patrons know that, hey, here's another person that is like me that needs your support just as much as I did back then.
I love that. You also do a lot of pop-ups yourself for folks that are coming up and trying something new, usually on Mondays or something when you're shop
either
is-
Sundays or Mondays we're
yeah.
closed. So yeah, we offer the space up to people doing pop-ups. Yeah, I working so close with these people that are just starting out really reminds me of what it was like first starting out, and it renews the whole experience for me. 7 years to work on something is a long time, and it could become mundane. And so to bring these people in that are just new, and I could remember how it was, when we were first starting out, it's a really beautiful thing.
It's like the best mentorship ever. Yeah. All right, Simon, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. You talked earlier about your family quite a bit. And so I'd like to just ask, where did you grow up?
I grew up in town in Monroeville, right in the east suburbs. Went to Gateway High School, and then after high school, I went to do undergrad in Hawaii at Hawaii Pacific University. Yeah,
and that's where some of the Hawaiian influences come to the restaurant. Okay,
and Hawaii is a really important part of my story because being half Korean and half American, I've struggled because it seems that I'm not American enough for the white kids, but I'm not Korean enough for the Korean kids. And it was that type of thing where I really just never found a place, and it's ethnically for that matter. But in Hawaii, everybody is mixed something or other. I fit right in there. I remember first going there, they would be like, "Yeah, you pass for local until you open your mouth." It's like,
oh, how wonderful!
So I grew up in Monroeville. Tight knit family. My dad has 5 siblings, so big old extended Korean family, and we were all in Monroeville. My grandfather came to this country straight to Pittsburgh to practice medicine.
All right.
And then I think quickly after they settled down in Pittsburgh, my grandfather found Monroeville and he built a house out there. It's the house my parents still live in.
Okay.
It's like the house I grew up in.
So you have generations here.
Yes.
Now.
Yes.
And it sounds like from your stories earlier, your grandmother started to adopt what she could find at Giant Eagle for her food.
Yeah.
What was food life like then for you that led you to this passion? Did you start cooking at an early age, or were you cooked for? Like how was your experience?
Yeah, so cooked for definitely. What I always looked forward to is dinner at Grandma's house.
Okay.
It was Aunt Mary and Grandma. My Aunt Mary is my dad's oldest sister.
Okay.
And then Grandma, who were like really holding down the food. So like Aunt Mary's house was always a treasure trove. She would always feed us delicious Korean food, and so would Grandma. So and then it was big like gatherings for us. Back then, we like once a week, everybody, the whole extended family would get together and Grandma would cook Korean food for everybody. It was really wonderful. And that's like really the atmosphere I'm trying to capture with Soju.
That's amazing. The
It's
traditional
like that family dinner. Yeah. And of course you're going to have things there like at our, that aren't necessarily, a Korean even,
No.
There was always like Uncle Beanie wanted to bring over his wings or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the Korean fried chicken and the katsu and like all of that. So I see all that in the restaurant too. So where do you start cooking, or when does that happen?
Oh, so I'd say I started cooking. I mean, both of my parents are also physicians, so they weren't around a lot to cook for us. They like there wasn't a lot of. I never really saw my parents cooking. You know, every now and again, my mom would make like something or other. You know, and I always say like the kimchi nachos, for example. I put a little bit of fish sauce in the queso. And that comes from a flavor of my youth. It's like one of the things my mom would like pretty routinely cook for us is boxed mac and cheese with peas and tuna fish. That processed American cheese flavor with a fish flavor is, I always was super fond of that. And then when I went to go, formulate the queso recipe for the nachos, I was like, you know what? Throw a little fish sauce in that queso,
And so let's follow that journey. So you're more of an at-home kid because the parents are working.
And then I would, grandma would and Aunt Mary would be cooking these things, and we'd all get together a little bit early so they would still be cooking. So I would have my eye on things, and there was certain like production things that they would kind of incorporate the family into, there was like kimbap night or mandu or the Korean dumplings or pot stickers kind of. That requires a lot of tedious, rolling and folding.
Everybody's going to pinch a dumpling.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So, and those were a lot of my first cooking experiences. Preparing some of this food that was just very tedious, and Grandma would be like, "Hey, fold these dumplings."
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. So help me follow this story. All of this family food is happening. You're getting that exposure. You're doing some cooking for yourself. You do go off to college in Hawaii. And what did you study?
Biochemistry.
Okay.
Yeah. I studied biochemistry in Hawaii, and it took, 4 years of doing that for me to realize that I want nothing to do with it.
Okay.
I got into some field work, some lab work in that field, and I, was just absolutely miserable. It was obviously not what I wanted to do. And I always, throughout my life, I'd always worked in restaurants. I washed dishes growing up in a Chinese restaurant. I worked at McDonald's, but I never really thought about it seriously as a career. And toward the end of school, what I actually found myself doing was I lived in this house. My friend Sam, he had a wealthy family who was able to buy him a home over there. So he moved all of us in. There was like 16 of us living in this like real world style house, and I would do a lot of cooking in that home, dinner. And it captured that feeling that I was after with the family dinners. Yeah. Yes. And I would prepare these meals, everybody would kick money at the beginning of the week, and I would do one takeout meal a day and one sit down meal a day. And, and it just became like I was the house chef at some point. And, and I really started experimenting and really trying to cut my teeth there, watching internet. And that was the days of like early YouTube. And, I remember just to put it in context, like I had got my first smartphone like right around that time, so these things were available and you could have it there while you were, cooking your dish. So I, did a lot of experimenting, and, I would go out of my way to go try to find different, wild ingredients and cook new things. And it was really just feeding my interest, then.
This is the spark that starts the journey to restaurateur.
Yeah. It was a hobby, it was something that I just really enjoyed doing and would do in my free time, and so I was like, maybe this is something for me. I just had, was like, maybe this is something for me. So what I did is I took my resume, all around to all of what I thought or what the internet said were the very best restaurants in Hawaii, And the first one that I showed up at was a place, and it was the top of my list. It was the very best restaurant in Hawaii at the time. It was called Chef Mavro.
Chef Mavro. Okay.
Mavro. And Chef was actually a Korean guy. His name is Chef Kevin Chong, and he was like, look, gives me a look over, kind of stern look. And he's like, we'll take you on as old school commis. I was like, sure, whatever that means.
Oh, yeah.
And, what that meant is I was going to work 60 hours a week, unpaid. Yeah. So I was just, very eager, and they invited me in. And from the moment I stepped foot in there, I knew I was in the right place.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a small group, and they ran just such a tight knit awesome kitchen, family meal every day. Like it was a real family over there. And they worked me super hard. They kicked my butt, and there was a lot of it, but it was what I needed at the time. I needed that type of just like hands-on, just like militaristic,
Yes. This is how our kitchen is run. You are going to learn that.
Yeah.
You're going to learn all these things here too.
Yeah. I mean, I really learned. I remember the first day I got there, I was trying to tie my apron behind my back, and Chef just shakes his head at me as I literally had to show me how to put on the apron. I mean, I learned so much there, more than I could ever imagine, to be honest. Like, just to continue the story, all of the chefs there were graduates of CIA, Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. So they were like, look, well, if you want to do this thing right, you're going to go there.
You should do that.
And then again, I was a little apprehensive. I was like, I don't know, more schooling, whatever. And they're like, you know what, just try it out, go out there for a couple of years. And, Chef Kevin wrote this letter of recommendation and from other chefs. And I was able to they were able to give me scholarships.
Wow.
And that was another thing. My parents, they were supportive, but they weren't happy with me to be like, I'm going to go to try an associate's degree in culinary arts now. And they were just like, what?
So you go to CIA at Hyde Park in New York.
So I spend a little less than a year at Mavro.
Okay.
Just really cutting my teeth. Eventually they hired me on and offered me a little bit of money. And then, CIA in Hyde Park, New York. I don't necessarily know if I would do the same as my chefs did and recommend that to somebody else that was trying to take my path. I will say it was great for networking and meeting other people. But in terms of cooking, it seemed like a lot of time just like, and especially coming from such like a high pace environment and a legit like, AAA 5 Diamond James Beard Award winning kitchen, going there, it just seemed like a lesson to, it seemed
You're
like,
taking a step back in a lesson, right? Like slow pace, like some basics.
If you don't know, it's good if you've never worked in like a professional kitchen before and you're, but a lot of these kids there, they were like, had to learn how to work like physically. And I was just oh man,
you've been there already.
Yeah, it was a little bit frustrating in that regard. I was very serious about it. I am not necessarily proud of how I acted there either. And I was, I made a few friends, but I was very just like hard nose, and I was
because you were so ready for something else. You were ready for the next step,
right?
And that's probably why.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Well, tell me this then. Let's kind of move forward. When do you get back to Pittsburgh and start thinking about opening Soju?
So I spent some time doing some stages like New York. I realized quickly that New York City, I wasn't going to be able to hack it in New York City either. That city is amazing, and it's the most amazing restaurants probably in the world there. But that city was going to eat me alive if I stayed there. So I was like, you know what? I think Pittsburgh's the right place for me.
Yeah.
So I moved back to Pittsburgh, just try to get jobs. I spent some time, managing dingbats, just like normal kitchen jobs, I worked at 11 for a while, Beer Hive, just trying to make a little bit of money to at least contribute something to the build out of this restaurant, My parents helped me out with buying the building.
Yeah.
We were very fortunate to get in that neighborhood before prices skyrocketed.
Yes. You really got in at the right time.
Yeah,
because it's really just exploded.
It's true. And I don't shy away from the word gentrification and, coming in and that.
Or revitalization. Yeah. Because what I would say about Garfield too, is I think it's still very mixed in the best way. Right.
And that was part of my business plan from the inception. Like if we're going to buy this building here, and take advantage of the fact that a building is affordable and we're able to buy a building because any other, when you look at Regent Square or wherever, I wasn't able to buy a building.
Right.
So coming in there, I was very cognizant of that. And that I have restraints as far as like, I want this to be affordable for every single person around.
I agree 100%. I know that you can walk into your place and you can have a nice meal for an under $20 ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a happy hour drink included.
Yeah, that's right.
You know? Yeah. Yeah.
So it's still truly a neighborhood spot for anybody.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Simon, let's jump forward. You guys have reopened now. I know I just saw that you had a pop-up with Pickle Boy.
Yes.
And so how about anything coming up in the near term or even throughout the year? Do you have any events or
We're
any
going to
new goals?
host Pickle Boy pretty often over the next, Pickle Boy is Mike Lambert. He is a longtime bartender at Soju.
Yes.
He's a bar guy, and he's just really into sandwiches and like normal sandwiches, nothing like nothing crazy. And we're always talking about how Pittsburgh just doesn't have like a normal, like what we experience in New York is bodega.
Yeah.
Like we just wanted to have like bodega food, and so soups, sandwiches, pickles. Yeah. And Mike kills it. He would always bring in these pickled eggs, these curry pickled eggs, and we would have them for family meal, and everybody would be like, "What? We need more of this type of thing,"
So he's going to be popping up.
He's going to be popping up, definitely. I just was actually talking over the last couple of days with Jason. We've done pop-ups with him before. He's Pete of My Shawarma.
Oh, yes.
And what we'll do is we kind of do a collab, him and I, where I stack Korean barbecue meats on his shawarma spits.
Oh, wow.
And we do like Korean shawarma.
That's so cool.
And yeah. We'll add a little bit of like gochujang to the eggplant, the roasted eggplant spread.
Like baba ganoush?
Yeah, baba ganoush. Yeah. And we'll just like Korean up baba ganoush. Yeah. So it's it is a really cool thing. So we're talking about doing that. I don't have too much lined up as far as pop-ups right now. So if anybody is listening,
shout out.
I mean, I always open them up to, I've been trying to encourage my sous chef Alexis to do more. She was doing them for a while. After I'd say 6 or 8 months of working at Soju, I start to, bring that up to people.
Yeah.
Like, it is an option if you have an idea or have a concept you want to see how people would take to a certain type of food or whatever you cook. Let's do it. And you could hire me for less than I pay you.
That's kind of an amazing opportunity for someone working with you.
I think so.
Yeah.
Usually I make the offers, even like I'll just look for people who are, in the,
maybe they're doing the brewery thing or something like that.
Exactly. Or I have friends, you know what I mean? Like Gary is another big one. I'm sure he'll show up at some point again. We'll do some collabs. Gary is GS Sando Company.
GS Sando. That's right. I've seen GS Sando around.
He just got a truck, so you'll see him more in the brewery scene. We were just able to get him into a truck, so that's awesome.
That's cool. And what about the neighborhood itself? The First Fridays, has that been going on, or is it that stop in the winter?
First Fridays has been First Fridays usually stops during the winters.
Yes.
I mean, there's a little bit of a pickup every now and again. Somebody will host, Irma Freeman will be doing some art or something. Okay. But in the wintertime, they're not like they are in the summertime.
Right. So they're
in the summertime,
starting to happen
it's
again.
A block party.
That's
I mean,
right.
it is just fantastic.
All right, Simon, it has been so great to talk to you. And so hopefully folks are anxious to want to visit Soju.
Yes.
Maybe go visit First Friday. Why don't we give you a moment to plug your social handles or your website? Where can they find you?
I mainly, for social media, I do Instagram. We are Soju PGH on Instagram at Soju PGH. And the website, you're better off just linking to the website from the internet, because I did not pay for a website for a domain name. So it's just like I use Wix. So it's like my name and then like a bunch of numbers or something. Like
I found you. If you search Google,
yes,
you'll
if you
find
just
the
Google
website.
Soju or Soju Pittsburgh, you will find the website.
That's right.
And part of keeping the Soju at the price point that it is that I try to cut extra costs out in a website
lean.
domain name is one of them.
Yeah. You got to be lean where you can. I get it. All right, Simon, I have one more question for you before I let you go today.
Yes.
The name of the show is The Pittsburgh Dish. What's the best dish you've eaten this past week?
The best dish I've eaten this past week. It would have to be yakitori. My friend Jeremiah I've been calling him the yakitori guy lately. He has become quite obsessed with yakitori.
Oh.
And so he bought this grill and he upkeeps his tare at least once a week. So he'll cook a yakitori at least once a week.
Is this just a friend's house?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a friend.
Just make sure we're not able to go there with you.
I wish you were. And maybe one day, you know. But yeah, the best meal I had this week was definitely a friend who cooked me yakitori.
So delicious. So can you just describe for listeners that don't know what you're talking about? What were some of the things that were on the grill?
So yakitori if you're looking for spots to enjoy yakitori, I believe Teppanyaki Kyoto has yakitori, and also Umami has yakitori. And these are skewers, usually meat, usually chicken, cooked on a charcoal grill.
Yeah. So you get that flavor.
Yes, and it's like a special grill where the skewer fits, so you could rotate it in almost like rotisserie, these tiny little skewers. And it is wonderful.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, it really is.
Simon Chough, thank you so much for being on the Pittsburgh Dish.
Oh, thank you, Doug. It was great.
Up next, as we get into the warmer months of grilling and barbecuing, I had an off-the-cuff question to challenge our resident wine expert, Catherine Montest. Have we talked about barbecue and wine before?
No, I think we've talked about tailgating and...
Yeah,
no, not barbecue.
If you were just grabbing a bottle and going to somebody that was actually having a pork barbecue, what's the bottle you would grab?
Oh, wow. A pork barbecue. I might go for a Grenache.
Oh.
Because barbecues, you're doing those outside, and a Grenache is going to have enough acidity to cut through some of the fattiness in the pork. And it's going to have some nice bright fruit flavors that will complement some of the things going on in that barbecue sauce.
Yes.
So I would think a Grenache would be a really good choice for that.
Oh, I love this. As we get through to warmer months, I swear every day is cold and then hot and then sunny but cold. I'm looking forward to barbecue.
Barbecue is going to be a lot of fun this year.
Thanks so much, Catherine.
My pleasure, Doug.
You can follow Catherine on Instagram at Your Fairy Wine Mother. That's UR Fairy Wine Mother. Just a few blocks down the road from Soju is Third Space. We get a day off recipe from owner and baker Chloe Newman. Hey everybody, we're joined today with Chloe Newman of Third Space Bakery. Chloe, when we've talked before, you are baking a ton of great bread and other pastries and delectables at Third Space. I always wonder when someone is not in their food business and maybe they have a day off, what are you making for yourself at home? Do you have a recipe for us?
A lot of the cooking that I do at home is not recipe based. It's often, what's in the fridge? What can I throw together? Maybe it's something left over from the bakery that I was lucky enough to snag. But, when I do have bread in the house, which is almost every day now, one of my easy weeknight meals is making a grilled cheese and tomato soup.
Ooh.
And again, not a particular recipe in mind, but I do have some helpful hints for folks, especially if you're using Third Space bread.
Yes.
I've tried making grilled cheese with pretty much all of our breads. I do think the house loaf is your classic choice there. Nice and crusty, soft on the inside.
Great crumb, as we've talked about before.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. You might get a little bit of those cheese melting pockets, but it's not like all over the place. I do like to use mayonnaise on the outside. I know that there's some back and forth on whether to use mayonnaise or butter. I think mayonnaise is the way to go personally.
I've done this. It browns so nicely and it adds a little more flavor, a little tang sometimes. I guess it probably depends on the mayonnaise you use.
Yeah. I do like to use at least 2 kinds of cheese on the inside. I think that provides a nice little flavor balance.
Do you have some preference? What's your favorites?
I was doing a Colby Jack and Havarti.
Oh.
Yeah. And that was really, that was a nice blend. And my other recommendation would be to really go low and slow when you're cooking the grilled cheese.
Yes.
Just get it really nice and melty. And I do like to, I personally like to almost burn the bread, but a really nice dark brown for the best flavor. Yeah.
Sounds delicious. Any tricks to the tomato soup that you pair it with?
Some days I will just go straight Campbell's.
Oh, why not? I think it is classic.
Yeah, but otherwise, using fire roasted tomatoes is really delicious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just for the soup base. A touch of half and half or cream.
Yeah.
Any kind of Italian seasonings that you have in your pantry. Love throwing some hidden veggies in there if possible. Saute up some onions, some carrots even, and blend that in. Just why not? Whatever suits you.
I love riffing a recipe like that with whatever's on hand, and I'm open to a grilled cheese and tomato soup any day.
Mm-hmm.
Chloe Newman, thank you so much for being on the Pittsburgh Dish.
Thank you for having me.
You can follow Third Space Bakery on Instagram at ThirdSpacePGH. Do you have a recipe? Share it with us. Just visit our website at www.pittsburghdish.com and look for our Share a Recipe form. If you enjoyed the show, consider buying us a coffee for this episode or supporting the show monthly. You can find links to those options at the bottom of our show description. And if you want to follow my own food adventures, you can find me on social media at Doug Cooking. That's our show for this week. Thanks again to all of our guests and contributors, and to Kevin Selecki of Carnegie Accordion Company for providing the music to our show. We'll be back again next week with another fresh episode. Stay tuned.